Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox. My name is Josh Breslow. Thank you so much for being with us here on this Tuesday, August 26th. I do want to take you out to those comments here from the Republican candidate for New York City Mayor Curtis Sliwa as he is speaking over in the subway area. Let's listen in here on Live Now from Fox.
All right, Curtis, what are we here for today?
As I begin my daily campaigning in the subway with my wife, Nancy, there are issues that need to be addressed, especially when it comes to public safety in New York City, which is clearly my strong point in running for mayor. Poll after poll now indicates that public safety and quality of life have risen to the point where affordable housing and cost of living were of primary concern to the voters. And there's a reason for that. There's been an explosion of violent crime in the city. I thought it was great that the Attorney General yesterday took time to come over to One Police Plaza to meet with the Police Commissioner, Jessica Tisch, and some of her associates, and offer the help of the federal government, particularly National Guards persons who might be available for duty here. I was really put off by the attitude of the Police Commissioner, Jessica Tisch, who acted like we don't need the help. Well, first off, this attitude of Eric Adams and Jessica Tisch is that there is the perception of crime. Perception of crime. Having spent the entire weekend up in the northern Bronx, I wasn't lifting weights or eating potato chips or going on a scavenge hunt. I was dealing with the frightened residents who have had bullets flying and blood pouring out in the streets of the Bronx, both in the 4-5 precinct and 4-7 precinct, where people have been shot and many of these crimes are unresolved. They would certainly welcome the presence of the National Guards persons to give them a feeling of security, particularly next week when school comes back. Many of these shootings have been in proximity of public schools that many mothers bring their children to and then pick them up afterwards, and they're concerned about ongoing gang violence in the area. That's point number one. Let's be real clear. We're approaching the anniversary of the attack on 9/11. We know there's been a depletion in the police department. What was originally the anti-terrorism task force housed at the Bush terminal consisted of 1,000 men and women of the police department who were part of the intel to prevent any further attacks. They did a great job during the 12 years of Bloomberg under the command of Raymond Kelly. But ever since, there's been a depletion in the ranks of the entire police department, from about 38,000 down to 32,500. You cannot get any answers from One Police Plaza, from the police commissioner or the mayor, about the fact that if every other unit has been depleted, for instance, there were 10,000 detectives that must investigate crimes so they can be prosecuted. We're now down to 5,000. Are you telling me that we are staffed at 1,000 of the anti-terrorist police officers highly trained to prevent future acts of terrorism? You can't seem to get an answer. And now that we're on the anniversary of the attack, I think it is incumbent upon them to accept all the help they can get from the Attorney General, especially if it's specific to that. What the Police Commissioner, Jessica Tisch, could have done is taken the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, into the ComStat room where the precinct map is, and it indicates where violence is occurring. 45th Precinct, 150% increase in shootings, not enough cops. 47th Precinct, 100% increase in murders, 50% increase in stats of shootings. Now, the police commissioner's own stats. So I would think it would be incumbent upon her to say, hey, look, we can use some help in the northern Bronx, which never has enough police officers. And by the way, on the cusp of the 9/11 anniversary, we can certainly use some additional federal help in buffing up our anti-terrorism unit. We know the cops have left early for early retirement. We know they're being recruited away. We know there's a lot of retirement. We're losing 300 cops a month. And then in addition, we have the continued open-air prostitution in Corona, East Elmhurst, and Jackson Heights. I remember it was the governor herself, who sent 100 state troopers in to deal with that in October. She did it because we didn't have enough police officers. What she successfully did was transport a lot of that prostitution over the Grand Central Parkway. What that successfully did was transport the open-air prostitution across the Grand Central Parkway to Main Street, Flushing, where it flourishes on the side streets. So I would say, let's look at the history. Kathy Hochul, governor, sent 750 New York State National Guardsmen into the subways because of a subway crime crisis in March of 2024. When Debrina Kuam was set on fire on the morning of December 22nd, 7 a.m. on that F train on the Coney Island Stillwell platform. And by the way, they've never mentioned her name since. They do not want to acknowledge the most horrific act of violent crime ever in the subway system of New York. She assigned an additional 250 New York State National Guardsmen. That's 1,000 National Guardsmen from the state of New York. How can Eric Adams, how can the police commissioner, Tish James, say it's a perception of crime, or as the police commissioner likes to say, these acts of violence, these gang shootings are just an anomaly, when in fact these mass shootings are occurring more and more, as we've seen in this last month? I, as mayor, would have been open to accepting any and all help that the federal government was offering to try to get this violent crime problem in control, and especially in the area of anti-terrorism, which I believe we're extraordinarily vulnerable. But when you ask the city, the mayor, or you ask Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch, they will not give you figures of how many men and women are still left in the anti-terrorism task force. They used to be housed in the Bush terminal.
What are your thoughts on this proposal about cashless bail?
I think I want to applaud the president because he mentioned in his statement, I don't want to mention the name of the person responsible for this. Mr. President, thank you for cracking down on areas that continue with no cash bail. But that was started by Andrew Cuomo, who I'm running against to become the next mayor of the city of New York, 2019. And just this past week, in a series of interviews that he's done, he's doubled down on the importance of no cash bail. And incredibly, he says he cannot see a connection between the explosive growth of violent crime in our city, in all 5 boroughs, and no cash bail. That is incredible. Clearly, he's detached. He needs to stay in the Hamptons, maybe run for mayor of Southampton, because he has absolutely no idea what his signature on that law has done and how he has continued to be a proponent, like a hybrid. It's him and Zohran Mamdani. They believe in no cash bail. They believe in taking serious crimes and downgrading them to the point where you maybe get a ticket, a desk appearance ticket, what we call a disappearance ticket, or they just turn you loose in the streets. They are pro-criminal, Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo. They are a hybrid that helps criminality in the city. And I'm the only law and order candidate who says no to no cash bail. I applaud the president, and I would have received the Attorney General Pam Bondi, obviously a private meeting, and I would have pinpointed all the areas in the police department that we could have used federal support, including Kash Patel, the FBI, coming in and tracing all the prostitution in Flushing, Corona, East Elmhurst, and Jackson Heights to the sex traffickers who are clearly bringing women in illegally into the country and utilizing them for the sex trafficking. The landlords, the absentee landlords, should be arrested. Their building seized. The madams and the pimps should be arrested. The Johns should be arrested, and their names and their pictures put up on billboards like they used to years ago. But they do nothing about this other than to occasionally arrest the women, many of whom are here in an illegal status and are being abused and taken advantage of by the sex traffickers, who the president has labeled part of the terrorism that is affecting the United States.